We have met a lot of times, and before we even start this interview, I have to say thank you very much for all your support and all the movies I've done. I really need it.
The progression of movies from yesteryears was such that none rose above a specific limit. But when the movie Last Action Hero came on the scene, it rattled the foundation, broke barriers, and stood as an underdog in the history of Hollywood. But what if I told you that what you may have seen was only half of the secrets in the movie? You have yet to have a glimpse of some of the weird facts. Without further ado, brace yourself and let's go on a ride as we uncover 20 facts you didn't know about the movie Last Action Hero. Number 20. Schwarzenegger played two defined roles. It isn't easy to find someone in Hollywood who plays two defined roles in a movie without much suspicion. Quite honestly, only a few actors have played these roles, and it worked perfectly. Last Action Hero was the first movie that credited Arnold Schwarzenegger as a producer and also as the fictional cop Jack Slater. Arnold was particularly responsible for directing several scenes and also played the fictional cop Jack Slater, who brought life to many scenes in the movie. Jack's input was unparalleled, bringing an aura to the character each time he stepped into a scene. He played it confidently so that the producers couldn't help but admire his physical strength in killing roles back to back. Amazingly, he played the real Schwarzenegger in the final act of Last Action Hero. After Jack saves Arnold's life at the premiere of Jack Slater IV, the two share a confrontation. Arnold thinks Jack is some kind of professional impersonator hired for the big premiere. Jack cuts him off and says, "Look, I don't like you. You've brought me nothing but pain." Jack has always been a genius, and the movie Last Action Hero was one of the many movies in which he proved his relevance. Number 19. A change in title of the script. The title of a movie often goes through vigorous scrutiny, and in most cases the initial name it was called is eventually changed for various reasons. Before the script of Last Action Hero was given the name it bears, it underwent a series of revisions. The movie itself began as a spec script by two college kids, Adam Left and Zach Penn, who went on to work on several X-Men movies and the Avengers. They had come up with a title they felt was right for it, until it was viewed under the lens of major critics, and it was changed. Initially, they had named the script Extremely Violent, particularly because its early draft was more of a spoof of buddy cop movies. This was written based on spoofing Arnold Schwarzenegger's action vehicles, and according to the script, he was meant to answer Arno Slater. But unfortunately, it didn't make it to the final cut, because the producers thought it didn't accurately represent the ideas conceptualized in the script. They agreed, made a few changes, and aligned the script, finally naming it Last Action Hero. Well, the movie we know today as Last Action Hero is worthy of accolades, and who knows if it would have performed worse at the box office if the name hadn't been changed. Number 18. The continuous infusion of death-related scenes. When viewed from the lens of professionalism, movies from yesteryear didn't incorporate many demise-scripted stories that made sense, but when Last Action Hero premiered, it brought several death scenes into play and was special in every sense. Until this time, producers and directors were scared of incorporating death scenes into their films, even though they were necessary, citing that it might look too childish and that many wouldn't identify with it. However, on the contrary, Last Action Hero didn't just incorporate death scenes. It created a unique, lasting impact on the viewers' minds. The movie's location is a rundown movie palace about to be closed to make way for a big multiplex. Later, the figure of death from Ingmar Bergman's The Seventh Seal is brought to life by Danny's magic ticket as it tries to collect Jack Slater's soul in the old theater. It was almost like the era of death had been switched on in the movie. However, despite its back-to-back incorporation, the movie came out beautifully while politely passing its message. Number 17. Box office success. One of the goals of every movie that premiered within Hollywood's confines is to entertain fans and secure its place at the box office. Every producer wants to make a profit, and if it isn't adequately represented, it will encounter several challenges that could interrupt the sales process. When Last Action Hero hit the cinema, it came with a completely different aura, and within months of debuting, it made its mark in Hollywood's most adored space. While its contemporaries struggled to make their mark at the box office, Last Action Hero did its own without going through the typical setbacks that often hinder a movie's box office success. The compelling story resonated with audiences, and the feedback resulted in triple sales. Last Action Hero, by design, may seem simple, but it contained scenes that captured every viewer's mind, creating a lasting impact. Even many years later, it still holds a title that cannot be altered: action personified. Many movies have since tried to undermine Last Action Hero's accolades. However, the more they attempt to spread propaganda, the more it shines before the eyes of critics. Number 16. The production itself got meta early. Producers undeniably deserve recognition when it comes to the production of a movie. The reason is that they do a lot of brainstorming before they can come up with something tangible. 24 hours a day, they are determined to produce phenomenal results that leave the world in awe. Did you know that original screenwriters Zach Penn and Adam Left penned Last Action Hero as a movie that would serve both as an adrenaline-fueled action ride and as a satire of adrenaline-fueled action? Even if you hear it for the first time, they did, but not without drawing inspiration from their favorite characters. Guess what? The characters they drew inspiration from eventually joined the project. It rarely happens in movies, especially since no one wants to give credit to someone else. Jack Slater's name was originally Arno Slater, as a nod to Arnold Schwarzenegger. He was phenomenal in the movie. Likewise, Leff studied intensively from the archives of some of Shane Black's scripts, including Lethal Weapon and The Last Boy Scout, to get the concept he sought. However, he concluded it wouldn't work how he wanted, so he hired Black to restructure the script. It was duly reported that some of the concepts were derived from glimpses of Die Hard and other John McTiernan-directed movies, and before anyone could say Jack, McTiernan was right there appropriately directing the film. This was rarely seen in Hollywood, but Last Action Hero did well in setting a timely record. Number 15. The Simpsons was a major inspiration. The Simpsons isn't a show one can easily dismiss for its lack of relevance. It's noteworthy in its own right. It's impressive to know that The Simpsons had a part in the making of Last Action Hero. No wonder it became a worldwide sensation. Beyond the defined concept of Schwarzenegger's action flicks, Penn and Left launched the project because of an unlikely source: Matt Groening's irreverent cartoons. The funny part? It was The Simpsons that inspired it in the first place. We thought, if this show can destroy genres even as it embraces them, why can't we do it in live action? It was a tough decision, yet they succeeded in incorporating this idea quickly. And when the movie hit theaters, it was fantastic in every sense. The Simpsons had already been spoofing Schwarzenegger and his action movies with Rainer Wolfcastle, the star of the prestigious McBain movies. Last Action Hero needed to deliver something tangible, and once they realized this, they made their plans without delay. Number 14. Rewrites were done by the finest: Carrie Fisher, William Goldman, and Larry Ferguson. Not many times have we seen several writers assemble on one project, especially if it isn't a series kind of script. Did you know that the storyline in the movie resonated with viewers because there was a change in hands, ideas, and concepts along the way? Penn and Left took bold steps to start the script, but along the line they were replaced by Black and David Arnott, who novelist and Oscar winner William Goldman then replaced. It was all within the confines of the script to get something special, so they needed all the best hands on deck to ensure a quality delivery. Goldman was paid a hefty $1 million for his contribution to the final script. However, the studio and some crew members were unhappy despite his input. Still determined for success, the producers considered their next course of action. Within a short while, Carrie Fisher and Larry Ferguson were employed. At the time, Larry had just finished writing the script for The Hunt for Red October and seized this opportunity immediately. The studio also pushed for Black to add some action scenes, but he declined, citing that it would lead to a disjointed script. However, after they all made their inputs, the movie was top-notch and did exceptionally well. Number 13. Schedule problems almost ruined it all. Most movie sets sometimes encounter challenges that disrupt a movie's progression and success in various ways. One of these challenges is the need for producers to stick to tight schedules, especially when scenes are not within a particular time frame. Last Action Hero faced a peculiar scheduling problem that almost derailed the script. The time allocated for several scenes was often insufficient to achieve the desired performances. This affected production accuracy until producers devised a strategy to meet the demands of each set. At the time, Columbia Pictures had given a deadline for the movie's release. The film was set to be released on June 18, 1993, and McTiernan and his crew were given 9 months to put together a blockbuster, forcing them to manage their time to achieve their aim. However, it never worked, as they realized the time frame was minimal to achieve their desired goal. They decided they would deliver a perfect piece, but on time. Robert Greenberg, who was hired to do the CGI effects, gave honest advice while speaking from a place of experience. "I don't think a production of this scope has been pulled together on such a short schedule." As the release date drew closer, the actors and crew members were under strict pressure, working 18 hours daily. It was one of the worst filming periods, and since the studio was not keen on changing the release date, they persevered to get what they wanted. Number 12. Arnold Schwarzenegger got AC/DC to write a song for it, and it was worth it until Last Action Hero began filming. Schwarzenegger had not become an executive producer. This was his first movie as an executive producer. He had rights to several aspects of the movie, including the meticulous marketing details. This gave him the platform to take steps he felt were right then, including reaching out to AC/DC. Shortly after filming began, Arnold realized that Jack Slater would need an anthem that resonated with the movie. In an orderly manner, he reached out to AC/DC, but instead of asking for the rights to one of their hits, he boldly asked them to create something new and spectacular. This conversation birthed the song Big Gun. The song was a perfect rhythm for the movie, and despite the challenges encountered along the way, Schwarzenegger executed this decision impeccably, resulting in a spectacular anthem. Number 11. A cheaper version of Alan Rickman was brought to the scene. Several factors contribute to filming a movie, and no one can predict how a production will eventually turn out. Remember that Schwarzenegger was modeled as the beefy, gun-toting hero, which he executed exceptionally well. Similarly, Benedict was based on Alan Rickman's steely Hans Gruber from McTiernan's Die Hard. It was perfectly orchestrated to achieve a specific aim, and the producers were on point. The young boy, Austin O'Brien, who travels into Jack Slater's movie world, even breaks the fourth wall by referring to Benedict as Rickman at one point in the script. Did you know there was a subtle shade almost no one knew occurred? They tried to bring Rickman on board during production, but he declined. They attempted everything they could to convince him, but he remained unmoved by their propositions. So they chose to hire Charles Dance for the role instead. Charles did very well, and when he showed up, he wore a shirt proclaiming, "I am cheaper than Alan Rickman." When the producers saw it, they knew he was up for the task as it fit into the meta vibe of the production. Charles made his mark, and honestly, he was worth every dime paid. Even after many years, the producers never regretted casting him. Number 10. Lots of cameos rattled the scene. Connections leveraged can work to a person's advantage when needed. Even though several cameos in the movie were not scripted, when the time came for them to be included in the film, Schwarzenegger leveraged his contacts. These connections were gathered while ascending the throne of Hollywood stardom, making his work much easier. Did you know that the phenomenal Sharon Stone shows up as her Basic Instinct character, alongside Robert Patrick as a Terminator T-1000 in a background shot? Thinking that was enough, Schwarzenegger's then-wife appeared too, but this time it was herself. It was an unforgettable experience for her, and her input was not diminished. Danny DeVito voiced the police cat, stating he could make it happen in just a short time, and Joan Plowright played a teacher showing a class her real-life late husband, Laurence Olivier's version of Hamlet. Each of these cameo appearances was spectacular in its own right. Lisa Gibbons played herself doing celebrity interviews, Tina Turner played the mayor of Los Angeles, and Jean-Claude Van Damme and Jim Belushi also made appearances. These cameos demonstrated the extent to which other actors would go for their friends. Everyone loved Schwarzenegger, and they repeatedly proved this. The movie industry is interconnected, and leveraging connections is crucial if anyone is to rise to stardom quickly. Schwarzenegger knew this and used it to his advantage. Number 9. The movie has a lot of references linked to it. Not every movie director and producer will have the courage to reference other sources linked to their work. They may want to take credit for what they have drawn from others for obvious reasons. It is one of the sweetest aspects of Last Action Hero that references abound. Spoofs often contain numerous references, but Last Action Hero smothers you with them. This shows that the producers are responsible enough to acknowledge those who made their work successful. In this vein, IMDb lists about 68 references the movie drew upon. This attests to the fact that there is a reference to another movie every 2 minutes. No wonder the movie came out perfectly and remained relevant even after many years. Some notable references include King Kong, The Wizard of Oz, Serpico, E.T., and various callbacks evoking movies from Schwarzenegger, Black, and McTiernan. It was also reported that movies like The Running Man, Die Hard, Total Recall, and Raw Deal inspired Last Action Hero. The movie will always be a favorite for many, not just because of its uniqueness, but also because it recognizes the efforts of others. This also proves the adage that says we rise by lifting others. Number 8. Art Carney and Toru Tanaka made their final appearance in a movie. No one can accurately predict what happens next. This is exclusive to nature's instinct. One can appear in a movie with zeal, passion, and determination, without knowing that it might be the final role of their career. Did you know that Art Carney and Toru Tanaka made their last appearances without knowing it? In the 1930s, Carney got his start in radio before becoming a star on The Honeymooners and winning an Oscar in 1974 for Harry and Tonto. In Last Action Hero, he played a delicate role where he starred as Jack Slater's favorite cousin, whose demise he's avenging in Jack Slater 4, having avenged all his closer relatives in previous films. It was his last movie, and his final line, "I'm outta here," seems hauntingly prophetic. Perhaps he knew he wouldn't continue afterward. In the same vein, Toru Tanaka, known for bodyguard and warrior roles, played his last movie role in Last Action Hero. He starred as the tough Asian man and did an excellent job worthy of commendation. He didn't know it would be his last, but something forced him out of the TV screens of yesteryear. Number 7. The first movie that earned a spot of advertisement on a NASA rocket. While the world celebrated the explicit impact of Last Action Hero, they were unaware that it had grabbed an unprecedented opportunity for advertising. The movie was so successful that NASA was blown away by its impact and offered free advertisement. The advertising campaign for Last Action Hero was so massive that it nearly took over the world within 3 months with its bold strategy. They implemented a strategy that astonished many, and it made sense afterward. They ensured they painted the movie's logo on an uncrewed NASA rocket, but it wasn't without a stiff price. They reportedly spent $500,000 to have it done in their first attempt, but it did not take off for several reasons. It was a significant setback, but hopes remained high that something might still happen. A Comet rocket was meant to be launched in May to promote the movie in June, but the launch was delayed for specific reasons and ultimately never took off until after the film premiered. Number 6. Arnold Schwarzenegger wanted something else. Often, producers develop strategies they feel could enhance an overall movie but may never implement them for various reasons. It's impossible not to assume that every concept that makes it to the final cut comes from the producer. In the case of Last Action Hero, a significant switch happened during production before the movie hit cinemas. During the movie's production, Arnold Schwarzenegger wanted it to be rated PG-13, believing it would appeal to audiences of all ages. He never intended to see it from a different angle. As the executive producer, he was responsible for almost everything with the movie, including approving the script, director, cast, studio financing, distribution, marketing, PR firm, planning a foreign release, and more. However, it didn't sit well with McTiernan when he insisted on a PG-13 rating. Nevertheless, they viewed the situation impartially and concluded that it would assume the shape he preferred because he knew better. This singular discussion shaped Last Action Hero into what it is today. Otherwise, it might not have made the same impact as it did in subsequent years. Arnold's concept wasn't inherently flawed, just unnecessary given the nature of the script presented to him at that time. Number 5. Different perspectives between Danny and Slater. Every movie has challenges and differences, yet some seem irrelevant when they erupt on set. Many actors and actresses still haven't accepted that they can disagree in unimaginable ways without shouting at one another disrespectfully. Did you know that Danny and Slater had scores to settle during the filming of Last Action Hero? Although it was minor, it lingered because neither believed they were wrong. Here's how it unfolded. While filming Last Action Hero, there was a moment when Danny produced a piece of paper with a word and beckoned Slater to say it. The content of the word is uncertain, but reports suggest it was presumably an F word. Slater refused, and Danny pretended to be unfazed, going on to make a statement that would implicate his name. He cited that they were in a movie, so he was meant to respect him. Even though the F word was not accepted when the movie was made, Danny wanted it his way. It never happened, and soon after, the duo found themselves at loggerheads. However, the F word still appeared in the movie, spoken by Lieutenant Decker during one of his rapid-fire rants at Slater. Many audiences did not notice its presence, likely due to its context. Number 4. Trailer inconsistencies.
Truck directly in the line of fire gun.
This may be the hostage negotiator police we're talking about.
It's Slater.
The production team often determines the scenes that make the final cut of a movie, and how they do this depends on many factors. Last Action Hero contains numerous scenes that didn't make it to the final cut, and even if they made sense, including them, depends on the producers and directors alike. Some scenes that didn't cut the trailer include an extended Hamlet action scene where Arnold Schwarzenegger is in some water shooting at someone, Danny being blown away into the movie after dynamite pops out of a screen, and an alternate taken angle for Slater's "I hate when that happens" line after he emerges from the tar pit. The reasons for removing these scenes from the final cut are unclear, but we trust their judgment was valid. A couple of other deleted scenes are from the original 2-hour and 20-minute rough cut, including a dialogue scene between Danny and Jack, in which Danny explains how his father died of cancer. Ultimately, it's clear that Last Action Hero didn't become a hit by chance. Instead, it was a deliberate decision and intention that brought them this far. Number 3. Considered a failure. It is often said that one must first believe in their work. It's well known that Arnold Schwarzenegger was the executive producer of Last Action Hero. Remarkably, it was his first movie in this role, meaning he had much to learn. However, did you know that despite the movie's impact, as touted by critics and lovers alike, Schwarzenegger was somewhat unsure of its reception? He wasn't a big fan of the film. While others praised his production skills, he remained oblivious to their applause, believing it didn't meet his standards. Reports indicate that Last Action Hero was deemed one of Arnold Schwarzenegger's worst movies. He considered it a failure after an unbroken string of successes and thought it signaled the beginning of the end for his movie career. After these statements surfaced, critics did not hesitate to criticize him for suggesting their efforts were not up to par, highlighting how his sentiments might reflect his treatment of crew members' contributions. It truly was unfortunate timing for Schwarzenegger. He learned from his mistakes and became one of the best executive producers. Sometimes all one needs is one setback to become one's best self, and if one believes, no one can predict the extent of the impact. Number 2. First movie. To use the 1993 Columbia Pictures logo.
Riding out with his horse and being right there next to me. And so this is what this movie is about. It's like the people come.
There's always a beginning to something, and it feels great to start something. Last Action Hero came with many surprises, most of which were in its favor. It's unbelievable that a movie like this would record such a unique feat, and surprises come in various forms. Did you know Last Action Hero was the first movie to use the 1993 Columbia Pictures logo? It still isn't entirely clear why the studio allowed such a liberty using Houdini's name and the concept of the magical ticket, especially since so many films in Hollywood struggle to secure that authenticity. In an industry where producers often face red tape and endless negotiations just to reference real people or historical figures, it seems unusual that Last Action Hero was granted this credibility without much resistance. Many film enthusiasts and insiders have speculated over the years that the deciding factor may have been the star power behind the project, Arnold Schwarzenegger, who not only headlined the movie but also carried immense weight in Hollywood at the time, is frequently cited as why this agreement might have been possible. While no hard evidence has been brought to prove this, the theory has merit. In the early 1990s, Schwarzenegger was at the peak of his career, an international action star, a household name, and one of the most bankable actors in the world. Studios and producers often adjusted their decisions when his name was attached to a project, and it's not unreasonable to think his involvement could have tipped the scales in negotiations. His influence may have quietly opened doors that would otherwise have remained closed, persuading decision-makers to overlook concerns and grant the film the green light for Houdini's inclusion. Although Last Action Hero is often remembered for its struggles at the box office, with critics at the time labeling it a disappointment, especially when compared to juggernauts like Jurassic Park, which dominated the same summer, there was still a sense of pride behind the scenes. Despite the film's rocky reception, Columbia Pictures valued the fact that they had been able to strike such a deal. It was a point of prestige to weave Houdini's name into the film's mythology, adding a sense of historical weight to a movie otherwise filled with satire and exaggerated action tropes. While many continue to classify the movie as a flop, it's important to note that the cultural afterlife of Last Action Hero tells a different story. Over time, audiences have come to appreciate its self-aware humor, playful deconstruction of the action genre, and audacity of its concept. Critics who once dismissed it now often view it as ahead of its time. For me, Last Action Hero has never been a film that could be easily forgotten. No matter how harshly it may have been criticized or how much debate surrounds its legacy, it remains a favorite. It is one of those movies that dares to be different, blending satire, fantasy, and blockbuster spectacle into something uniquely memorable. Number 1. Real life versus fiction.
Schwarzenegger films.
Foreign films are in the back.
No, action. This guy's an action star.
Down the center, on the left.
Every character in cinema emerges from somewhere, whether rooted in a writer's imagination or inspired by real-life figures. Last Action Hero is a perfect example of this mixture, blending fictional archetypes with nods to reality. Among the larger-than-life characters, one figure stands out, not because of his on-screen action sequences, but because of the fascinating real-world story behind his name. In the film, the concept of crossing between the real world and the movie world is made possible by a magic golden ticket. This ticket is credited to the legendary stage illusionist and escapologist Harry Houdini, a figure who, in reality, became synonymous with daring feats and the art of escape. This idea of Houdini leaving behind a magical artifact within the narrative adds a mystique that fits perfectly with the movie's playful tone. That memorable scene, where the ticket becomes a gateway between fantasy and reality, has remained a hallmark moment for countless movie lovers. But here's where the story takes an unexpected twist. The Houdini referenced in Last Action Hero bears almost no resemblance to the actual man who once walked the earth. Surprising as it may sound, Houdini in real life was the complete opposite of the supernatural image attached to him in the movie. While his name is often associated with mystery, the paranormal, and otherworldly feats, the historical Houdini spent much of his career exposing frauds. He despised fake spiritualists, phony mediums, and self-proclaimed psychics who preyed on grieving families. Houdini dedicated years of his life to debunking claims of supernatural powers, often going undercover to reveal trickery and deception. So, when the producers tied his name to the idea of a magic ticket, many scholars and fans of Houdini were shocked. This seemed out of step to them with his real-life legacy as a skeptic and rationalist. Some historians even noted the irony. The man most fiercely opposed to superstition and fraudulent spiritual claims was immortalized as a supernatural benefactor in a Hollywood blockbuster. When the production team realized this contradiction, they were reportedly surprised. After all, Houdini's history was well documented, and he had built a reputation not just as an entertainer, but also as an active contributor to truth and rational thought. In a way, this twist adds another layer of intrigue. It suggests that Houdini's cinematic appearance was less about historical accuracy and more about the mythology his name carried. The movie's version of Houdini was not the man himself, but a romanticized figure, a disguise, a projection of what audiences imagined Houdini could have been if his tricks were supernatural. The real Houdini would almost certainly have rejected the idea of leaving behind a magical artifact, yet the idea works brilliantly in cinema. Despite the irony, it's essential to remember Houdini's greatness on his terms. He was a phenomenal stage performer, a relentless innovator, and a cultural icon who captivated audiences with his unmatched daring. Whether escaping handcuffs, sealed tanks, or locked chests submerged in water, Houdini left spectators gasping in awe. In that sense, he played his part in real life just as spectacularly as any actor on the silver screen. Perhaps his name fit so naturally into Last Action Hero, even if the details were fictionalized. As for the movie itself, Last Action Hero had a complicated reception. Upon release in 1993, it faced stiff competition at the box office, most famously against Jurassic Park, and many critics at the time labeled it a flop. Yet the film has aged into a cult classic within the Hollywood community and among movie fans. Its self-aware humor, playful take on action movie tropes, and bold blending of reality with fiction have kept it alive in pop culture conversations. Today it stands as a nostalgic icon, celebrated not only for Arnold Schwarzenegger's performance, but also for its quirky details, like the cameo of Houdini's golden ticket, that continue to spark discussion decades later. In the end, Houdini's appearance in Last Action Hero reminds us that cinema often bends truth in the service of storytelling. While the real Houdini fought against superstition, the fictionalized version gave the world a magic ticket, and perhaps that's fitting. Both versions have inspired wonder. Do you think this movie was a flop? And what basis are you using to reach that conclusion? Please let us know, and don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons. There are lots of amazing videos waiting for you.